Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 81, I'll be tying the Montanna Nymph. The Montanna Nymph has been around since the 1950s and was primarily used to imitate various stonefly nymphs. It's a great trout catcher. My personal experience is that I've caught a tremendous amount of stock trout on this fly, and not only trout, but some panfish and bass as well. So yeah, this is a good pattern to add to your arsenal. A simple dead drift on the bouncing off the bottom should do the trick. It's an oldie but goodie. I highly recommend using it. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, here we go. The Montanna Nymph. An oldie but goodie. Place your hook in the vise, making sure that your shank of the hook is relatively parallel with the tabletop, and begin to cover the entire shank of the hook with thread. You want to wrap back to that sweet spot where the shank and the bend meet, and that's right about there. Okay, so the first step to tying the Montanna Nymph is putting the tail on, and the tail is made from a dyed black Hackle fibers, and I selected a Hackle who has a Hackle fiber length that is quite long, and my goal is to try to even out the Hackle fibers, and I'm going to grab about a 1/2 inch worth. I'm using the tips of my fingers, and I'm going to grab the tips of the fibers and pull away. So once I get that group, I'm going to gather them very carefully, kind of tap them together and draw it out, and there's your perfect tail. So to proportion materials to this hook, I'm going to measure the length of the tail to equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye, like so. So once I get that determined length, I'm going to slide it in and pop it right in that spot, right where the shank and the bend meet, and there's your tail. Lock it down and cover up the remaining excess and return your thread to the beginning of the tail, like so. Let's take a peek at it. Not bad. Okay. So now that we have the tail proportioned with the shank of the hook, we're going to start to build the abdomen. So the abdomen is made from chenille, a medium diameter chenille. And before I attach the chenille on, I'm going to kind of expose the core a little bit, like so, by drawing off some of these cotton fibers to expose the core. I'm going to attach that core right in up against the shank of the hook, like so. Okay. So, in review, we have our tail, which is equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. And we have the abdomen material, which is medium diameter black chenille. So I'm going to use my thread as an indicator as to when to stop building the abdomen, or the length of the abdomen. And I'm going to probably wrap up, I'm saying like 60% of the hook shank. So approximately right there. Just a ballpark. I'm going to take my chenille and I'm going to start carefully wrapping, tight wraps, butting them up against each previous wrap and working forward, like so. I'm almost there. Okay, now tie it off. Get about 8 or 10 securing wraps, and once it's secured, I don't want to cut this clean. I want to go up about 1 inch and clip it off there. We're going to use this excess for our thorax wing case cover. So the first step in building the thorax is we have this pronounced or well-defined tie-down point for this wing case material. We're going to have to fold that back and wrap into it so that we make it disappear, and also so that we make it part of the abdomen. You know, there's like your tail, your abdomen, and then your thorax wing case cover. And I don't see any thread maybe a little bit. Let's get back a little bit further. Excuse my fingers. There we go. There you have it. Okay. It's looking good. Looking good so far, guys. So, the next step is for the legs. The legs, I'm going to select a hackle whose hackle length, fiber length, is about 1.5 gaps. And I've selected a feather from the neck. I'm going to draw down some of this downy fuzz here, like so. And we're going to attach this hackle. So there's a natural curve to this hackle. This one has a very slight curve, but I want them down and going over the fly, not up and away. So orient your hackle so that it's down and curved down and over the hook, and attach it to your side of the hook, like so. Okay, very good. Now for the remainder, the thorax. The thorax is made from medium yellow chenille, medium diameter yellow chenille. So again, we're going to have to expose these ends and tie it and attach it to the thorax area, like so. Okay, very good. Now you're going to take your thorax material, the yellow chenille, and carefully wrap that up the shank of the hook, like so, and secure that. Nice. Clip the excess off. You want to get as much of this excess off as possible, because with all this chenille, it turns out that you get a really big bumpy head, and you don't want that. You want to make it as lean and slim as possible. So now let's review again. We have our tail equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. Perfect. We have our abdomen, which is made from black chenille, the medium diameter. We didn't clip the black chenille clean. We left a little excess of about 1 inch long, and that's going to be used for our wing case for the thorax. So then we attached the hackle, whose fiber length was about 1.5 gaps to 2 gaps for our legs. And then we started building our thorax out of a medium diameter yellow chenille. And again, it's important that you expose the core so that you get, a nice tie down. Okay, now for the legs, we're going to grab our hackle perpendicular to the stem and begin wrapping 3 nice wraps. I'm going to just make it. Let me reorient my hackle pliers. There we go. Tie that off. So now once the hackle is tied in, let me get it a little bit. Yeah, that looks all right. You're going to take your wing case and you're going to center that on top of the thorax, and I'll tilt the vise to the camera a little bit to show you. We're going to center that right on top, and we're going to lock it down like so. A couple good wraps, and we're going to clip off the excess. I'm going to go with a little finer pair of scissors here to get as much of this as possible, because like I said, it could get really ugly and bulky. Okay, looking good. Finish cleaning that up. And this fly is pretty much done. Tie your finishing knot. And there's very little cleaning up to do with this fly. A drop of head cement and you're done with pretty much. So yeah, like I said earlier, the Montanna Nymph is a great trout catcher. I mean, as well, I've caught panfish and bass on this as well, but my focus has been using it for trout. And It's a great stock trout catcher for sure. That's been my experience. And it's used to imitate various stoneflies. Like I've said earlier, you could tie this in different colors. I've seen it tied in tobacco brown chenille with yellow. Yeah. So, there you have it, guys. The Montanna Nymph, an oldie but goodie. It's been around for quite some time, and yeah, I recommend adding this to your arsenal for early season trout fishing. I want to thank you for joining me in this episode of the Fly of the Week. And if you like the content I'm pushing out, please hit the notification bell and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me. Tight lines, guys.